Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at something completely new, something called loops. Loops in Python are another way to structure your program and a way to make it react to certain events, certain changes. A loop is similar to what a loop is in normal reality. A loop is when something keeps on going round and round and round in a circle. When something doesn't have a starting point, doesn't have an ending point, but just keeps on going around and round and round. So you can run a loop around a soccer field. If you run in a loop, you're just going to keep on running around in the circle around the soccer field, basically forever, until something happens that stops you. In Python, there are two main types of loops, and for now, in this video, we're going to take a look at one of them. This loop is called the while loop. And now, what the while loop does is it contains a block of code which you can enter that runs while a certain condition is true. So while something is true, so while you still are fit, you can keep on running the loops. You can keep on running around the outside of the soccer field. But as soon as you are tired, that condition of you can't anymore, so the loop stops. Now, to clarify this, I think I'll just give you a quick example of how loops work. For that, let's just open a new window, and we start off by creating a variable, like always. Make this variable equal to 1, and I'll just write some code and explain afterwards. I love Python. Creative. Okay. We save this as loop.python, save, and we execute it. Now, before we execute it, let's just take a quick look at the code. We create a variable equal to 1, and then, oops, I'm sorry about that. There we go. We create a variable called x that we make set equal to y, 1. Then what we do is we create a loop. We create a loop inside this while operator. So in this line of code, we tell Python that while x is equal, always remembering the double equal sign, to 1, do this. So Python sees x is equal to 1 and will do this until x is no longer equal to 1. So what this should do, this should keep on printing I love Python endlessly until we do something, until we stop the program. And by accident, you've already seen the result. Let's just show it again. And here we go. You see the little bar here going down. This is just keeping on printing, etc. Now let's just stop that because it's kind of pointless. But this is basically what what a while loop is. A while loop checks for a condition. If that condition is true, if this is the case, then this happens and will continue happening until this is no longer the case. So essentially, a while loop is like an if-then statement. If this happens, if this is the case, then this will happen. Just with a difference that in the while loop, if this happens, this will continue to happen all the way through while this is happening. So let's make this program a little more useful, or little less going on forever. We are going to create a variable, let's call it count, which we set equal to 0 to begin with, and every time Python prints I love Python, executes this block of code, we want to set count. We want to increase count by 1, so we add 1 to count. So count is equal to count plus 1. So what this line of code does is that every time that this while loop, that this code runs, the count variable is going to be increased or set equal to itself plus 1, so increased by 1. Now, we're going to use our knowledge of if-then statements, of if blocks, to stop this loop. because if count is larger than, say, 100, or 100, yeah, that's good, then x is equal to 2. So every instance, every round that this loop goes and executes the code, count is increased by 1. After 100 times, count will be equal to 100. And then after 101 times, count will be larger than 100. When count is larger than 100, this if then statement will execute and change the variable x to 2. Since the condition x is equal to 1 of this while loop is then no longer true, Python will stop executing this code and execute whatever code comes after that. So to show that, we'll just print something. It's over. We save this and we run it. Now you could probably go through here and count. This is going to be 101 prints of I love Python, and then when the variable count has exceeded 100, the while loop, the loop exits because x is no longer equal to 1 but equal to 2, and so it prints the next line of code in Python. This is basically all there is for while loops, but I hope you can see that while loops are an extremely vital part of programming, because in a game, for example, the entire game is part of a while loop, because the game, you will only be in game, or you'll only be able to play if your life points in a shooter, for example, are more than 0. So the entire part of a game may be in a huge while loop, which is while player.player HP, or your player life points, is larger than 0, then the game will run. If they're not, it will print game over or whatever. There'll be a black screen and somebody laughs at you. But in essence, these things are all while loops. Another example in a real life application of a while loop would be essentially in any program. For example, if you scroll down with your mouse button, which you can't do in this window because it's not bigger, but if you scroll down, Windows will see, okay, while you scroll down with your mouse wheel, then this happens. If you stop scrolling, it stops happening. Just another classical example of how while loops are used. In the next video, we're going to take a look at another type of loops, the for loops, and after that, we're going to use the two different types of loops to create another program, and, well, after that, you'll see what comes then.